Hi, I'm Bosco, and um, can I help you? I'm trying to record a review. What's your problem? Chill out. So today we're going to talk about Scream and the twists and turns that happen within the franchise and how great it is. We'll do all four films. Let's start with Scream. So I hope you enjoyed my intro. That was just me mucking around, but I'd like to do things like that for future videos. I've got some ideas for some future stuff that I thought was would be pretty funny to make. So today we're going to talk about Scream, written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. Wes Craven makes an appearance in this film in his Freddy Krueger attire. So I'll pop a picture up there and you can see it. So this film starts out with probably one of the most iconic horror scenes of recent times, and probably one of the most iconic horror scenes in horror history at the moment. And it's weird to think about that because I remember this film coming out and it fills me with nostalgia, from the big CRT TVs to the VHS players to the mobile phones. And one of the things that baffles me now is Billy, one of the characters in the film. He has a mobile phone, or a cell phone if you're in America, and they question him on why he has one, and nowadays it's more, why wouldn't you have one? And that just really made me smile. So we have the classic intro starring Drew Barrymore, and the thing is, Drew Barrymore was a star at the time. She was in E.T., so she was a bit of a big actress, and it's no secret that she gets killed in that first scene. And I think it set a tone for the movie. It was a dark intro. It starts off light-hearted, starts off funny, and then it just turns, and it gets dark. And the Drew Barrymore's death is just like, oh my god. And I think it was horrific, and especially for the time in the 90s when it came out. Obviously, you see things much worse than that in the Jason Voorhees series and in later Michael films, or Halloween films. So it set a very dark tone for the movie, which was strange because it is actually quite a light-hearted movie, but the kills can end up being quite dark in this film. Um, yeah, so I would say it was probably a bit of a shocking intro with Drew Barrymore's character and her boyfriend in the intro scene. It's kind of heartbreaking, and now that I'm a parent, there's a bit where she's on the phone to her mom, and her mom can only hear the gargles, like the death rattle, and it kind of bothers me now. Now that I'm a parent, I see this film probably once a year, maybe once every 2 years. I try to go through the Scream series, so this will be me going through the Scream series and making a documentation for my channel. The one thing I really like about this film is the meta aspect to it, and it's in this scene also, but it's throughout the entire film, where they reference other horror films, and they do it all the way throughout, including Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, where Drew Barrymore's character says only the first one was good, only the first one was scary, the rest were all crap. And it did make me smile, because if you know the history of the Nightmare series, they did take a big dip. There are some gems in there, and I'm going to go through the Nightmare series in future video series. But it did make me smile how he referenced his own work. Now, so my understanding that Drew Barrymore didn't see Ghostface or the person that did the voice until the scene was being filmed, so the reactions were great. Or she didn't see the guy who did the voice, so it didn't take away from it. And I think that's brilliant because you get a proper shock of the proper shock reaction that's needed for the film, really. So after this scene, which is referenced throughout the film, it's not a stand on its own scene, sort of like James Bond ones can be. It goes into the movie, and it follows a kind of a whodunit mixed with a slasher. So if you haven't seen the film before, so I won't give away any more kills or any more spoilers other than that intro scene. It follows a whodunit, and you are questioning everybody because everybody could be suspect. There's even a part where they say, why did it have to be a man? Why couldn't it be a girl? And you start then thinking, well, maybe it could have been a girl. I remember the first time I saw it, I was really heavily questioning Henry Winkler's character, who is, I met him in this picture here. He is one of the nicest, soft-spoken people in the world, and it actually freaked me out when I met him because he's so lovely. And it was a bit like, I didn't expect him to be that nice, but he really is. So when you go through the film and you'll start questioning all the people, you start looking at the way the character is, what characters are in certain rooms when these are happening, and you start trying to piece it together. And when you get to the end, the way it was, and I won't spoil it, but it was, at the time, it was really, really, really clever how they got around it. And like I say, I won't spoil it, but at the time it was fantastic. There was nothing else like it, because Ghostface isn't a monster, he is a human. And the one thing I like about Scream is it really keeps how human Ghostface is. He's clumsy, he gets hit, he gets knocked down, he falls over. You hear him grunt a couple of times. There's one point where you see him get hit with a fridge door, and he literally goes, ugh! And then he gets hit in the balls with a beer bottle straight after, and you're just like, he must be the shittest killer ever. And that all goes with this Rose McGowan scene, with a kill within that scene. And there's these garage doors that must have the strongest motor. It does show the door go, but so it shows it's struggling. But it's like, how strong would a garage door have to be to do that to someone? But and it's got these comedy aspects where these things are unrealistic, but Ghostface is still human, and he is human throughout the entire series. And I liked that. I really like it because it grounds it in reality. Obviously, like Michael Myers in the first Halloween film is very much human, and then towards the end you start thinking, oh my god, he's a bit more than human. And by the second one, he's quite supernatural. And as the films progress, you start thinking, oh, maybe he is supernatural. But this one keeps it grounded in reality in a certain way. And like I say, it's meta. It references these films in the next one. It references sequels. And it keeps it honest. It keeps the film honest in that sense. It obviously spoofs horror movies whilst being a horror movie itself. And it's clever. I love this film. I love this series. Especially the first one. The other thing I want to touch on is the soundtrack to this film. It has a great soundtrack because it has songs from the time. It has covers. It has a real nice cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper," and it's cool. And I remember the first time I watched it, and I tried to hunt it down the soundtrack so I could listen to that "Don't Fear the Reaper" song, because it's just haunting. And a lot of the instrumental themes throughout the film are haunting, and it's a film of its time. Like I say, the soundtrack is of its time, but the sort of film, it doesn't have like a John Carpenter sort of theme to Ghostface, but there are themes that go through the film that you would hear and go, "Oh, that's from Scream," and the songs that from the time where you go, "I remember that from Scream." So yeah, it is a dated film, and it dates weird compared to, say, the Jason films, and it's because of the technology like the TVs and the mobile phones and things like that. But it is a really good film. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the pacing to the film. The kills seem evenly spaced out, that there's no lull in a long period of time where something isn't happening. But the characters are being developed constantly throughout the film. They are established at the beginning, and then you're entertained by the teenager characters. They're young, and the other thing I want to talk about young is Matthew Lillard. Going back to this film and seeing him I follow him on his Instagram, and Matthew Lillard looks so young in this film. And the other one I want to talk about is Billy Loomis. Again, another reference. Obviously, you got Dr. Loomis, but Billy Loomis, he looks like Johnny Depp, a young Johnny Depp. I would say from the Nightmare films, but in the Nightmare films, he has that hair. It's just a young Johnny Depp. They really remind me of each other. So I want to talk about, obviously, there's some cameos in the film. You've got Wes Craven in his Freddy outfit, but you've also got Liev Schreiber. Now, as far as I'm aware, Liev Schreiber wasn't a big star at the time, but he is now, and he reminds me of my dad. He looks like my dad. But I really like Liev Schreiber. Obviously, he's Ray Donovan, but he's in one of my favourite non-horror films, which is The Goon, and pardon me, he's brilliant in that. But in this, it's a cameo, which obviously in later films he comes more to the forefront of the series. In this one, he plays a character called Cotton Weary, and his story is referenced quite a lot in the film as the killer to Sydney, our main protagonist. He kills Sydney's mom. Obviously, later on in the film, you find some more things out that go on with that, and that's the one thing that makes this film special, is there's always something going on, and there's always something you go, ooh, ah, and it's definitely worth 2 watches. One, to find out what's going on, and the second one to watch it with the knowledge that you know from watching it the first time. So what don't I like about this film? Well, as much as I like it for its nostalgia, it dates the film, and it, like I said earlier, it dates it in a weird way that the Michael Myers films and the Jason films don't date. And I think it's because, like I said, because of the technology, like the phones, the TVs. Yeah, you do see the TVs, and the fashion tends to date those Michael Myers and Jason films, and the fashion does date this one, but more so the hairstyles and things like that. They it does, you can tell it's from the 90s, and it's always going to be from the 90s. The one thing I want to talk about on the channel as well, and I will make a series on it, is the Scream TV series and how they use technology from that to modernise it. Because I always thought to myself, how would they make Scream now? And the one thing I really liked about the Scream TV series is it answered that question. So there's not much I don't like about the original Scream film, other than it's dated. Obviously, it's got great actors. You've got Gail Weathers in there as well, who was Courtney Cox, and at the time she was a big star in Friends. And to me, and probably a lot of other people, she's not Courtney Cox. She's Monica from Friends. And obviously, she married David Arquette, who is also in this film as Dewey. He's your comic relief character. There's bits where he will make you laugh, and you don't feel that this is a film that should be making you laugh, but it is a light-hearted film with dark tones to it. But the one thing that is a standout thing to me is Nancy. Not Nancy. Why am I saying Nancy? Sydney. She is obviously our final girl. She's the main character. And the thing is, it doesn't really have a final girl, this film. It does, but it's a hard one to pinpoint, but she's strong. Like, if you think that if you think other final girls are strong, and I'm talking Laurie Strode, that was I couldn't think of it. It was there on the tip of my tongue. Laurie Strode, she is a strong character. Nancy calls out Ghostface. She calls his bluff. She challenges him. And that's insanely good. That it's girls written properly, and girls how they should have always been written, and how girls should always be written. They are as strong as men, and that's fantastic. And there should be more of that written. And that's the other thing that this film doesn't do, is it doesn't have your nudity or anything like that. It's, like I say, it's more of a serious film with comedic undertones, or it's a comedy film with dark undertones. Either way, it's yin and yang, and I think that's brilliant. And I wish more films were like that. And Scream is the only film I can think of that was taking itself seriously, but not too seriously at the same time. And I like that. Going back to the film being meta as well, it also spells out the rules to horror films. And this is another thing I like, is the characters go on about the rules of horror films, and it's even spelled out to you, and you're just going, yeah, you know what, you're not wrong. Ooh, yeah. To the point where the characters, and I'm not going to say who, but certain characters exploit those rules to get their way. And there's one certain rule that basically, if you've had sex, if you are not a virgin, you are going to get killed. Whereas if you are the virgin character, you are most likely to be the final girl or the final survivor. And these rules are exploited, and they are used, and it's clever. It was really, really well written, and amazing direction. There's some amazing cinematography, and there's this one camera trick that I always like, and now I know how it's done, I still find it amazing. And it's when you first see Woodborough School, and the camera, watch it and watch what I mean. The camera comes down and then goes forward, and it's all in one shot. There's no cutaway. And I'm not going to tell you how it's done, but when you see it, you just sort of go, that's clever. And when you know how it's done, it's still really clever. So yes, I 100% recommend going to see Scream, or don't go and see it. It's been out at the cinemas forever. But if you get a chance to go see it in the cinemas, do that. But watch Scream. It's a 5 out of 5. It's the perfect horror movie. In all essence, it's brilliant. So definitely, it gets a 5-star recommendation from me. And Ghostface, even now, is fresh. But just to think that I remember this film coming out, now knowing it was in 96 or 97, is insane. And I remember waiting for that VHS to loop round to me so I could take it home and watch it, and my mom not knowing about that I'd seen it. But so yeah, go see it. And we're going to do Scream 2, 3, 4 and the series, both seasons and the special episode. I need to get hold of the VH1 season 3. I've not seen that yet, but I am looking forward to it. But I'm not going to watch until I'm recording videos for it, and it can be a surprise to me as well. There'll be discussions. If you know where I can get hold of the VH1 Scream series without spoiling it for me, because I haven't seen it, please leave a comment below, because I would love to know. and tell me what else you want, what you think of the Scream film, and if you remember it coming out, does it fill you with nostalgia? It would mean a lot to me if you hit the subscribe button and things like that. But anyway, in the meantime,
I'm gonna go get ready for the sequel.